Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are feeling well out there and having a fantastic start to your Wednesday. Got you an update on what's going to happen weather-wise for today, and then the second half of the video will really be talking about what's going to happen going forward. Today will kind of be the day before all the action that could potentially happen over the next several days. So today specifically won't be very active at all. It's kind of that middle ground day between what's leaving, which is the nor'easter, which has been the huge topic over the last several days, and what's going to crank up tomorrow, which is a severe weather threat. We now have an enhanced risk for severe thunderstorms for areas of the south central U.S. that we need to really hit on and really dive deep into tonight, which we definitely will. And then eyes are beginning to focus on a system really for the southeast sometime next week. We need to figure it out. We also need to figure out what kind of wintry mischief could possibly happen here in southern sections of Texas this weekend. So there's a lot to figure out, a lot of topics to hit on, but of course in these morning videos we'll focus in on what's going to happen today. Let me know what you guys have seen in the Northeast. The highest report I've seen is 43 inches of snow. That's unreal. It really is just pretty crazy. Some of these totals are certainly verified on the high end, and then there's other people that have been really disappointed, which is like the Boston area. I don't even think you guys have seen in the immediate Boston area an inch of snow, but that might have changed since last night. It's probably been snowing in certain areas of the city. Also want to remind you guys, I'm having trouble with my allergies. I'm not sick really by any means. It's just the pollen, things like that. So if you see me kind of scrunch up my nose or grab my nose, it's just me trying to avoid the sneeze to mess up the video here. It's I'm fine, guys. Nothing to worry about. But if you see my cats in the background, I got both my cats in here. They just were adamant about hanging out with me in this video, so they're kind of off to my right here. But if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You ever consider joining the channel? It's a great way to support what I do. Trying to get to 30 members, especially with the slower season kind of coming up here in the summer. I mean, it's right around the corner. That's when views really drop off, and for about a 2 to as much as a 3-month period, there's not really anything to talk about between severe weather season and hurricane season. So that's when the support is the best, and I really appreciate people who do support me by joining my channel. It means the world. Definitely does. But if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's take a look at watches and warnings. Freeze warnings where it is below freezing for a lot of the southeast. It's below freezing at my house currently right now. Had to cover up my bushes outside, so my pretty flowers that had bloomed over the last few weeks would not be killed or fall off or anything like that. So hopefully that works. But some lingering winter storm warnings up for some interior sections of the Northeast, but these will be dropped here in the next couple hours. Winter storm watch is up for the teal sections. This stretches from northeast Nebraska all the way up to the UP of Michigan. This does include areas like Minneapolis, which I think a lot of these areas will get upgraded to a winter weather advisory. Even when you move up from a winter storm watch to an advisory, that's still considered an upgrade. Okay, so some of you folks will get upgraded to a winter storm warning, some just an advisory. So we'll see what happens with this, but this will be a quick hitting system that's going to bring some dynamic weather, some severe weather to the south, and then you're going to go from like the 70s in areas of Nebraska today for high temperatures, even for pretty warm all the way up into Minnesota, to snow tonight. So a very dynamic system will move in really tonight. So water vapor loop, and here it comes right here. Huge surge in temperatures from the south all the way up into really South Dakota. This is some upper troughing that has fully moved into the western U.S. You see this swirl right here at the top of your screen. That is our lingering nor'easter. Beautiful swirl to it. Some kind of going to throw some back end snow a little bit throughout the areas of the Northeast throughout the day, but the really heavy snow is pretty much done with. But let's break down the Southeast first, guys. Not a really busy day today in the Southeast. It'll be kind of chilly for certain areas. Just not a whole lot going on. The heat will begin to build back in. I wouldn't call it heat, but warmer temperatures basically in the western areas of the deep south. But if you're further tucked into the eastern areas of the Southeast and Northeast, it'll definitely be kind of a chilly, kind of March-like day, and kind of breezy out there. But some rain showers are possible, basically from Orlando pointing south today. Kind of a damp day, but by the time we get into this evening, this will be cleared out. And then we get into the overnight hours and not a whole lot going on, pretty quiet. And then, the stage is beginning to get set for some severe weather across the south central U.S. The Northeast today, lingering snow showers, some burst of moderate to heavy snow is going to continue to get thrown back into Vermont, New Hampshire, even northern sections potentially of New York State, but this will pretty much stop pivoting back into the Northeast as this low pressure continues to scoot out into the North Atlantic. But you could deal in the down east areas of Maine, throughout the morning, early afternoon hours with some lingering snow showers. And, eventually, as we get into the overnight hours, this will diminish, and then we can have another piece of energy that really quickly swings down, might add a little bit more snow as we're waking up tomorrow morning for these northern sections of the Northeast. Snowfall from this, guys, and this was as of 8 p.m. last night. So, you guys have added more to this, but this is the only graphic, really, the latest and greatest graphic from anybody in the Northeast was dropped at 9:01 p.m. Eastern time last night. Hartford, you had 1 inch, but, maybe a little bit more overnight. I doubt it. Under an inch in Boston. I saw some absolute insane gradients of snowfall. Basically, the Worcester Hills was an area that just had some wild gradients. Where 4 miles made a difference between lower elevation and maybe 1,000, 1,500 feet up. Massive difference in snowfall totals. Fitchburg, you might be nearing 2 feet. Worcester, 9 inches, maybe a couple more inches added to that since this. But you guys were hit hard in the Berkshires. I mean, where we expected you guys to get hit hard. Over 2 feet of snow in certain areas. And then the areas in the Litchfield Hills, got hit pretty good. But, down here in southern Connecticut, you did not get, really you were only forecast to maybe get as much as 1 to 2 inches of snow. But I can tell you one state that really busted low was Rhode Island. You guys did not get a lot. Y'all didn't really get anything unless you live in the far northern to northwest section of Rhode Island. So some people, it was feast and famine. I think that's the perfect term for it, and it really was. Some people are probably upset, but, I mentioned that before. I knew there was going to be some people that got completely gypped from this, and there was going to be people who got completely crushed, like in Vermont. Even areas in kind of like northern Vermont, it snowed a lot more up in these northern sections than I think was originally forecast. Some areas were only forecast to get like 4 or 5 inches of snow. Some of them same areas got over 1.5 feet of snow. So it was it's just typically how it happens with these nor'easters, especially when you're in mid-March, when it's marginal temperatures. I will tell you today, it'll be quite breezy, as you'll have a stiff wind out the north and northwest as this is pivoting away. I think winds will begin to diminish somewhat, but you're probably going to have trees falling today periodically. You're probably going to lose power in certain areas, even though the storm is pretty much done with. You're going to have breezy conditions. You got wet, clumpy-like snow on some of these trees. If you haven't lost power, I would say there's an outside chance that you might lose power sometime today just because the winds are still going to be howling throughout the afternoon hours. But as we're getting into the overnight hours, things begin to calm down a little bit. The South Central U.S., enjoy today because tomorrow is going to be an active day, but today, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on. Maybe some showers get going sometime somewhere in central Oklahoma, maybe southern section of Nebraska a little bit. But here comes the low pressure ejecting across the plains. This will eventually set the stage as we're waking up tomorrow for a surge of higher dew points further north, a moist sector. And you're going to have some dry air in the upper levels of the atmosphere, overcutting this moist air at the surface. And you're going to have some big storms that really get going along the Red River. So both sides of it. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But between now and the next 24 hours, you folks are pretty quiet. Enjoy it. North Central U.S., pretty quiet most of the day. You get into this afternoon, this evening, some snow begins to enter northern sections of North Dakota. But here comes our ejecting low pressure, riding the base of this upper trough, this massive cold front that's going to come in. Like I said, today, you will warm all the way into the 70s, all the way up into Nebraska. tonight, some moisture begins to enter the state from the west, like it always does. Same thing with kind of northeast Colorado. And then you will quickly, sometime in the wee hours of the morning tonight, switch from rain to snow in central to western Nebraska. And, by the time you're waking up tomorrow morning around 7 a.m., rain is changing to snow very quickly. You might just start off as snow. Low pressure to your south, cold air sinking in while this storm is cranking up. And this could be an area of pretty intense snow. It's not going to last very long, but this, we'll go on and move into tomorrow, give you kind of an update on what's going on with this potential winter storm. And you start off as rain, maybe, for areas of kind of western Iowa. Then you quickly go to some heavy wet snow. Areas like Des Moines, you guys overachieved big time with the system kind of this past weekend. I think you got like 7 to 8 inches of snow. You guys might get a little bit more snow from this, but this looks more so just a rain event as, the moisture just kind of dries up before the cold air catches up to it. But, Minneapolis is a city where, hey, you start out as rain Thursday morning, but by the time you get into the afternoon, it starts unloading snow. And then, you got a deepening low pressure. It's slowly strengthening. And then, I could tell you the HRRR model is further north with the low pressure than some of the global models. And I can tell you the National Weather Service does not agree with the HRRR model. But I'm just kind of showing you something quick. We'll compare some things tonight. But kind of bring some moisture into northern Wisconsin. Keeps it all rain into the UP and Michigan. Except, if you're in Wisconsin, the northwest sections of Wisconsin, this is a pretty heavy-hitting snowstorm, quick-hitting snowstorm for areas of northeast Minnesota. And, if you're going off the HRRR model, what I'm about to show you wouldn't make sense. This makes sense. An area of snow from northeast Nebraska, a few inches of snow. Same thing with southeast areas of South Dakota. Somebody could squeeze in a half a foot of snow. Northwest areas of Iowa, anywhere from 2 to as much as 5 inches of snow. If you're in kind of southwest sections of Minnesota, 4 to 6 inches. I think around Minneapolis, you could get anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snow. But you start to move into the upper Midwest, and I can tell you that the HRRR model does not agree with this. It doesn't show you getting anywhere close to this, but some of these global models certainly hammer you guys, so that's why we got to compare some things. And I was just kind of showing you something very quick just now, but it shows basically the UP of Michigan getting hit pretty good unless you're in the far eastern and southern sections of it. And then far northern Wisconsin, where some areas around Duluth could get 7, 8 inches of snow. Northern Wisconsin, anywhere from 8 to 12 inches. Maybe some lake enhanced kind of snow here. You folks here in northeast Minnesota have been getting hit hard lately off the coastal regions of Lake Superior. Another big storm where areas could near 8 to 12 inches of snow for you folks. So prepare for that. This is the wild stuff today. Temperatures get into the 70s all the way into southern areas of South Dakota, ahead of a stripe of accumulating snow that will ride across all these areas. you're going to have some big-time snow melt up here in northern and areas of Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan today. Minnesota, it's going to get like anywhere from 10 to maybe as much as 12 to 15 degrees above freezing up in these areas today. Someone might hit 50 degrees up here today, okay? Which definitely isn't uncommon for mid-March. It's definitely not common, but you get what I'm saying. So you're going to have some snow melt before a very cold air mass moves in. It rises into the 70s, right? As we're getting into about 4 or 5 p.m. But by the time we're, getting into about 7 a.m., here comes the cold air, and temperatures will actually drop across like Minneapolis throughout the day tomorrow. So be interesting for sure. But everybody else pretty chilly today. Not too bad though. Severe weather threat tomorrow. You got an enhanced risk for severe storms in this orange area that is basically driven off a significant hail threat and a wind threat. But the hail threat, you got a 30% chance where supercells are likely to develop now of hail pushing 1 inch or diameter or larger. You also got a hatch risk, which is a 10% risk of hail pushing 2 inch or diameter and higher. We're going to have some big hailers tomorrow along the Red River into southern Oklahoma, northern sections and northeast sections of Texas. There is going to be a damaging wind threat, especially as we get downstream. So some of these supercells will eventually turn into a line of storms, what we call an MCS, mesoscale convective system, and then damaging winds will be a bigger threat later in the evening as, like I said, these storms cluster together and then becomes a big-time damaging wind threat and a hail threat. Okay, but there will be a tornado threat with these storms. Anytime you can get some supercells going, you're going to have a tornado threat, but you're just kind of lacking some kinematics. It's there, but you're lacking a little bit of kinematics out here to really put a spin to the atmosphere. Kinematics meaning wind energy. But be aware, and I can tell you, for your Friday along the Gulf Coast, I'm not going to get detailed on this, but we're going to show you the latest H-triple-R on what can happen tomorrow. There is a slight risk for Friday for areas like New Orleans, Mobile, down here hugging the Gulf Coast and the Panhandle of Florida all the way to the Bayou of Louisiana. So let's take a look at what could happen tomorrow. We'll start off around 1 p.m. Central Time. You got scattered convection, some showers and storm activity, but I don't expect these to be super severe, in areas of Arkansas and northeast Texas. But look what happens here. A little sector erupts and bang. These are some nasty supercells that get going around 4, 5, 6 p.m. here in southern Oklahoma, northern Texas. You see kind of the highlighted pink areas. That indicates to me that, hey, the model is trying to tell us that this is a high hail threat. These will try to be supercells and start rotating, but like I said, you're lacking some of that wind energy, but it's there for sure. But these are going to be some big hailers potentially, okay? I mean, there's some nasty storms right here, right over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, right around 6 p.m., right around rush hour. So, you guys know all about big hail storms in this region of the country. So make the precautions you need. Bring your hard hat to work. Certainly have a way to protect your cars if there is a way, and just your valuables and things like that. We could have some large hail with these storms, but trying to figure out exactly where a hailstorm is going to pop up is going to be difficult. But I can tell you in this area right along the Red River, just north and south of it, these storms will ride that, and then they'll develop into probably a line or a broken line of storms later in the evening. And they could certainly sweep down into Louisiana and eventually, try and definitely into southern Arkansas. And they will try to kind of remain and still have some punch to it as they move into Mississippi a little bit later. But these are some nasty storms kind of moving through the Shreveport area sometime late evening, maybe 2 rounds, first round in the evening, second round kind of after midnight. So we'll watch these. We'll give you another update on this tonight, but just be aware of this. More of a widespread look at how this can unfold right here. These storms could, you could have a nasty line of storms that moves through even areas of like Memphis, Jackson, Mississippi, as we're getting into the wee hours of the morning, Friday morning. So be aware of that. After this clears, we start to watch an active southern jet. The moisture is being suppressed. So we still need to watch Texas, especially the western half of Texas. The European, still as we're getting into Saturday morning, still has some snow bubbling up down here. Shallow cold air leaking down here into Texas, southwest Texas. Waking up some snow down here in southwest Texas Saturday morning. This continues. And then it cranks back up Saturday night in the same areas. More amplified moisture. You got some snow all the way up here in Amarillo, the Panhandle of Oklahoma. This could be a big event for New Mexico. Waking up Sunday morning, guys, in southwest Texas, and it's snowing. But, you even look down here in southern sections of Texas, south of San Antonio. You even got a little bit of snow showing up down here, too. Then this will try, and it looks like it's about to be something big for, like, areas of northern Texas. But then it kind of fizzles out. And and then it bubbles up again Monday morning. It's like 3 rounds. Monday morning it bubbles up again. You got more moisture that tries to get into this area, and then this is when it tries to scoot across Texas. Monday afternoon, the latest Euro wants to put a round of snow into central Texas, and then it gets suppressed, and then everything kind of gets pushed into the Gulf of Mexico, and then that's when we watch a signal into the southeast. But the blend of all models here with this system, it's everywhere. It really is. You got a few tenths of an inch of snow showing even in northeast Texas. You got, a couple inches of snow here in western areas of Texas, southwest Texas. You look at the European from this, and man, I don't know what's going on here. Here it is. And we'll have to go down to this. The European wants to drop wants to drop almost 1.5 feet of snow down here deep into Texas, and a few inches of snow even getting into central Texas. That's hard to believe, but I definitely think it's going to snow somewhere in Texas over the weekend. It definitely is, maybe into early next week. This same storm system, or kind of a piece of the same storm system, will try to get going, but here it is, right? Remember I showed you the Euro last night, and it showed a massive snowstorm for West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Kentucky, Southern Apps in general. Now it is suppressed further southeast, so there's not enough heavier moisture that gets further north to be snow. Now I can hear the moan and groans in Ohio and West Virginia and Pennsylvania right now. Listen, this is a perfect place where you want this storm. If you want snow, it's suppressed right now. We all know, if you know a little bit about weather, a lot of times these storm systems like to trend northwest in the couple days leading up to the event. So you like it here. It's not a cold air issue up here. I don't think. I really don't think. It's not a huge cold air issue, which is wild to say on March 20th or 21st. It's just trying to get this to get pushed into the Ohio Valley in the Mid-South and the Southern Appalachian Mountains. Okay? But you got a lot of moisture here. Okay? That's what the Euro says. The GFS says, hey, this storm is still game on. It's always going to be the wild scenario. Deep low pressure in the northeast Gulf of Mexico, 993 millibar low pressure. It almost looks like something tropical in origin, but it's not. But we're getting into Tuesday afternoon. You got snow breaking out across North Georgia, south of Atlanta. Okay, you think, okay, this is about to be something big for the Midlands of South Carolina. Well, I mean, it gets very close. This is not a forecast for my folks in South Carolina and Georgia. Please do not look at this as a forecast. But it gets close. Hits the upstate of South Carolina, the Triad, Piedmont, North Carolina. We're getting into Wednesday morning here. I mean, it's close. All right, so it still shows it, right? Canadian. What's the Canadian show? Canadian is kind of a mixture between the GFS and the European. Has more moisture than the Euro, but not as much as the GFS. Okay, but shows that snow signal in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. If I'm in the mountains of North Carolina, Tennessee, all the way up the spine of the Appalachian Mountains, all the way up to, I would say, West Virginia, you need to watch this closely. This has the makings of one of those late season, massive, wet snowstorms. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know. But I can tell you, this is going to be something to watch, and it's hard for me to believe this is going to get suppressed to the oblivion. Like the Euro is kind of going back and forth on. So we need to watch this. This will be a big topic along with what's going to happen tomorrow with the severe weather. But, of course, we need to focus on that severe weather first and foremost because a lot of people are going to be impacted by some nasty hail potential. So that's all I got. Have a great Wednesday, and I'll be with y'all tonight. God bless.